Sheldon Mack, who's with the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I'm sure both of the Harrison twins that played for Kentucky, I have both of those guys. Rasheed Suleiman from Duke, D'Angelo Harrison from St. John's, Terran Petaway, who was second in the Big Ten in scoring behind.
Are these guys all from Houston? I mean,
yeah, they're all from Houston.
Wow, because I might have to just give Houston. I like to say I'm born in Flint, but I'm really from like a small town in northern Michigan. But I was born in Flint. But Flint's got some guys. We got
Kyle Kuzma.
We got Kuzma. We got JaVale McGee. We got Mateen Cleat. Charlie Bell. We're a little bit outdated now. Like Houston seems to have a nice pipeline coming. So,
well, the thing is like every NBA player in the summer feels like they're going to LA and New York. Mm-hmm. So my mindset has been, man, there's so much talent in Houston. They just sort of need a platform where they can, showcase their talent. So last summer was my first summer creating the elite pro runs. So not only do I train these guys, but I also have created a pro run where I've only allowed 15 guys to come in, mm-hmm. no agents, no coaches, no parents, no girlfriends. Mm-hmm. And they're just playing, and I'm the referee, but I've also given them like sort of sets and stuff to run out of, like NBA sets, pro sets, so that they can kind of translate what we've bbeen working on to gameplay. Another one of the guys I have is Jonathan Simmons, who everyone remembers from the San Antonio Spurs.
Beast, athletic.
Yeah, he's a monster. He was actually with the Santa Cruz Warriors this year. He signed on pretty late, but he's one of my best players as well.
Mm-hmm. Like, and when you started getting into training NBA guys, like what was your connection to them, and kind of what was your passion for training, and how did it lead to getting hooked up with these some of these top guys?
Right. So when I started training, I was doing, it sounds terrible, but I was doing kids that didn't care about basketball at all. I was doing, kids that just wanted to get in shape, outside, inside, parks, homes, YMCAs, sneaking in 24s, anything you can think of just to train kids. And then as it evolved over time, I just kind of worked my way up. I started getting some of the people I played with before in college, or I started training those guys. Or if they
where'd you hoop in college?
I played at Central Christian in Kansas, NAIA school, and I led the conference in scoring, I think, with like 21 points a game. I was second team all region, first team all conference, all that great stuff. But when I graduated, I thought that I was still going to continue to play. And then that harsh reality set in that, just sometimes it just didn't work out. I got a paraprofessional elementary, middle school PE job that was only being paid like $16,000 a year. So I was like, man, what else can I be doing to, make some money? So I just started. That was the only thing I knew, basketball. I was doing it 3 times a day. I didn't even go to prom. Like I just basketball 3 times a day, like working towards that goal, like to try to. And, I just believed in plan A. I just always knew plan A was going to work. I never planned for a plan B. So when I came home, I just tried to figure out something else to do. Anyway, so I was building it up. I got high school kids. And I was working for free. A lot of those guys, like one of the high school kids that's in the local area, he was a district MVP 2 years in a row. I'm good friends with his coach. I tried to get him first. His name was Jerian Spells from Dickinson High School. And I was working him out for 2 years straight, and he continued to have a great career. And then he went to college, and some of the other guys around. And then one of my AAU teammates, Trey Bennett, this is how it all started with NBA guys. Trey Bennett, he was currently a pro. I worked him out, and his best friend happened to be Sheldon Mack, who at the time was with the Washington Wizards. Sheldon Mack played for Texas and then transferred to Miami. And then he was with the Washington Wizards. And I had trained Sheldon. This is my 3rd year training Sheldon. And now he's with the Cleveland Cavaliers. But then my thinking was, once I get these guys, just to provide value, right? Because anyone would train these guys, whether it's for free or for $5, they train them just to get their start. So my thing was like, what can make me different from the next person? So I've studied a lot of game film, studied what kind of situations they're putting it in. I mean, so for a guy like Damian Dotson, right, he catches all his shots from the wing in the corner. I wouldn't work on 7 dribble moves at the top of the key like that's because that's just not what he would do in the game. So my thinking was to show them that I've studied their game film so much that this is exactly what you're going to do, and this is exactly what you've been doing in the game. This is how we're going to build on it. So I just think being prepared is what has not only got me those NBA guys, but also putting it on social media. Like you get one of those NBA guys and put it up, people see it and they're like, oh, so he doesn't just work with kids. He works with these guys too. So it kind of was a domino effect after that. So it enabled me to get word of mouth, and then obviously social media too helped me a lot.
Yeah, I think it's a big jump too, when I coached overseas this year, going from like kids and adults,
Yes.
even just recreational adults. We got I started a startup called Swish House, which is basically basketball for the layman, just anybody that loves hoops comes in,
Right.
runs around. And I was coaching that, and I was like, it's not a pro level, but when you go jump up to the pro level, you really are now kind of specializing in
Yes.
you got point guards, you got shooting guards. These guys are used to, shooting off auto screens or coming off triple doubles or, staggers and pin downs. Point guards aren't typically coming off that. And so you really sound like you studied your butt off and really found out how to create value for the players in a micro situation that they're going to see over and over and over in an NBA game. And I think that's tough for I think a lot of kids I coach. I'm just like, hey, send me your tape. I'll watch you, and I can start to say, well, yeah, you need to start working on this to flesh out your game. You're not an NBA player yet. I would, I kind of break them into stars. Like you're a 2-star player, 5-star player would be like a pro. What we got to get you from 2-star skill to 5-star skill level, and then let's start working on that big block of clay. How did you go from that block of clay with kids and take a high school kid, like who has talent? How did you take that kid from where he was when he was younger to the highest level of skill he could reach?
Well, I think kind of just breaking it down, because I think you get a lot of kids that, especially this one in particular we're talking about, and kids that are on his level that are really talented. They're very athletic, and they think just because they go to the gym, they think they're getting a lot done. And I just try to teach him how that, definitely working hard, but also working smart too. So I don't think just going to the gym and you're playing 5-on-5 pickup. Yes, it's definitely important, but also I think breaking down the micro skills, kind of like what you talked about, as far as like getting him to realize how to create space, getting him to be able to use his angles to his advantage, getting him to use physical contact to be able to finish, and just kind of translating those things and saying certain things that stick in his mind. And I just think kind of just building off that, like someone that's very talented, I think if you can kind of challenge them, I think they're always up for the challenge. You get a lot of kids, especially at high school level, definitely at the junior high level that you talked about. They have a whole lot of potential. Maybe at junior high level, there's a whole lot of potential, huge size 13 shoes, but they can't walk and chew bubble gum yet. They haven't grown into their body. You get kids in high school that can jump out of the gym and put their elbow in the rim, but they can't dribble from point A to point B. So it's just, I think, about breaking down their game, like you said, adding those micro skills and just challenge them and making sure that they're making the most of their time. Definitely.
Do you challenge? I mean, like your methodology as a trainer with the pros, do you challenge them? I mean, I watched some of your Instagram videos. You seem like a pretty laid back guy, laid back coach. I've also seen those trainers out there that are like, pick up the sandbag, run up the hill. Like they're just trying to break. Yeah. They're trying to break the, like physically, mentally push these guys past their comfort zone. And I'm wondering, like, I think there's a good balance there for a trainer.
Yes.
What's your methodology?
I think there's definitely a good balance. I'm definitely not one of those guys. No disrespect to anybody else. I'm just not one of those guys that's like jumping over tables or carrying sandbags or, some of the parents do prefer those sorts of things where they kind of want a strength and conditioning coach and a basketball coach. That's not me. That's not my specialization. I'm solely focused on basketball, but I certainly try to challenge those guys as far as mentally, especially the NBA guys. Right. So, Damian Dotson, I was with him last week. And one of the things that we talked about is he had to make 3 in a row from all 7 spots. And if he missed 5 shots total, he had to start over. The first time he shot the ball, he said that he wanted to start on the make, but I was telling him that you can't start on the make, because when you come into the game off the bench, they're not going to just let you start on a make.
Yeah, right. We all want to start on a make.
Ready to go. Exactly. So you have to be ready to go as soon as you get in. So that's kind of so when you start, as soon as you shoot it, we're starting, and I just think challenging those guys like that, like you have to be ready for game situations. So they're not just, and then same thing I do with Jonathan Simmons is at the end of the day, at the end of each drill, we always do 10 free throws in a row. And then we always do full court threes. So corner, wing, top, wing, corner. And he has to make 8 out of 10. And you have to start, whether you start or make miss or make the first shot, you're starting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just being ready. And I just think challenge them mentally that way and putting them in situations where they have to think.
Yeah.
I think that's where I try to separate myself from other trainers, just like you kind of said, conceptual situations. The higher up you get, like with the NBA guys, it's just making them think and adding basketball IQ.
Mm-hmm.
I think with the younger kids, it challenges me. I enjoy it just because, like, trying to be versatile and train an NBA guy and then going down and training the younger guys. I think you have to be really high on communication. You have to really be able to express how you want things done. I'm not just able to say, hey, get your elbow above your eye. You need to explain why you're doing it. You need to, so I welcome the challenge. I enjoy it.
Let's talk a little bit about, like, in terms of business, building a business out of training. I'm sure a lot of people out there are probably like, man, I'd love to train. I hear a lot. I just see a lot of trainers who, to me, I'm a basketball player. Like, I'm not a professional. I'm not an NBA trainer. I don't want to be an NBA trainer.
Right.
I just like giving people real basketball tips, drills. Like, I want to find the best out there and put that in front of people so that they can get real information. And I feel like a lot of trainers out there that I watch, it's just gimmicks. It's just a lot of self-marketing, self-promotion. How do you deal with, like, that part of it, where you might look around and see a Instagram trainer who has 200,000 people. How do you, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I got 200,000 people, but really it's about value. How did you create a business of value other than just saying what you're doing? Like, did you reach out to people? How did you market? How did you start finding guys? Tell me a little bit about that process.
Okay. So from a business standpoint, if you scroll down my Instagram, like just from when I first started, man, you will see 0 videos and you will only see me standing next to a player and taking a picture after the workout. In my mind, and I gotten so much, my friends and family, they were like, man, why aren't you taking videos? And why aren't you doing videos? And why aren't you doing videos? That's how you provide the value. In my mind, I was like, man, I want to give these guys, because I was thinking, man, if I'm training these guys and I'm holding my phone the whole time, that takes away from what I'm doing, and that makes it about me and not them. So I just refused to do that. And I was like, you know what, I'll just get a picture with you after. I do want to show my work, but at the same time, like, this is what it's about. It's about building that relationship and So I think as far as from a business standpoint, from trainer to player, it's all about the relationship. If I would just walked in and it was my first time and said, hey man, look, you're going to do this drill, and this drill. And I wasn't rebounding, contesting, teaching you. And I would just hold my phone. It's just, I don't think it's professional and I don't think it's personal. So I just kind of built it that way. As far as like other trainers, I'm not very good at like watching other trainers, because I see some of the guys, they have like 18 cones out there and they're doing 1,700 dribbles into a jump shot. So I'm like, man, that's not realistic. If you're talking about the upper level guys, like if you can't score between 0 to 2 dribbles, you're not really going to be able to score in the game. And it's just kind of like what you said, providing value. So whether you're training NBA guys, you're doing kids, you have to provide value. And I think some of the things, like you might be more talented than me in speaking. I might be more talented than you in showing, like maybe with my body or doing a basketball move. Other guys might be talented as in teaching. Like I see 1,000 trainers that are like, hey, they have a list and they're like, you need to do jab step, you need to do shot fake, you need to do this, but they're not really teaching, and then you have to find that balance of, making the parent happy and teaching. I have sometimes when I first started out, I was so worried about teaching. The hour and 15 minutes had gone by and the parents look at me like, well, my kid's not even sweating. I'm like, yeah, well, you have to understand this is like a classroom. Like I'm not a rebounder. I'm trying to teach your kid basketball. So that it's a balance. And, I just think providing value is the need of the customer, but as far as like social media and that stuff, like I'm at a point now where I've been able to, hire a video guy that works for the Rockets, and he comes to all the runs, and we kind of work together and highlight specific things. And I did a bad job at first, I think. And I've gotten better at being honest with myself too, is like, I just want highlights. I just want highlight reel. I want a highlight reel. Yeah. But then after, as I've progressed, I want the whole videotape. So that way I can break down the stuff that I'm doing. Like I've just admitted to you 3 or 4 times, like I've made mistakes. I want to be able to make mistakes in those workouts so I can learn and get better from those as well. And then as far as like for social media purposes too, just kind of take those snippets and, me teaching that are real authentic and genuine, and then maybe broadcast those. But I just think it's, like you said, definitely marketing wise, it's tough. You have to pick and choose. You have to be different, but at the same time, you have to show value. You're not showing value if you have, a million cones and doing things that aren't relatable to the game, but you also aren't showing value if, you're not posting your stuff like I was. So I definitely think there's a balance there.
Yeah. What do you think for a kid? Let's just say you got the middle school level, the high school level. Kind of take me through what they could do in their driveway right now. They're 1-0, they're 1-0. A lot of parents are writing me saying, please send me some drills they can do out in the driveway, get them out of the house. And so a lot of the stuff that I'm doing is just looking for trainers, looking for coaches, seeing stuff that I really like and agree with, and getting it in front of my, of that level of middle school, high school, elementary school, middle school, high school, college. So what would you say, like 5 things you would focus on that transfer from 1-0 practice to games, and you can really say, oh, hey, this is something I would do no matter what, every single day, get the habit of doing it, and start transferring your practice to your games?
Well, definitely one of the first things, just before even the basketball part, like I think big time for kids right now, especially with them being out of school, is just, this is a perfect time to establish good routines. I know it's terrible, but I've been training 1 or 2 kids throughout the week. Now, even at their homes, because parks are closed. So I've been at their home, and, I think it provides value that they still have good routine, like waking up early, they're getting a good breakfast, they're going to run, maybe something like that. I think it's hurting the kid if they're waking up at noon, and then they're just coming outside to train. I think that's the biggest thing. So I think, if they can still master their morning, if they can still get the day off to a good start. But as far as basketball, I think a lot of the stuff right now that I've been trying to teach kids, and I've tried to put a few videos out as well, even if they don't have a goal at home. 1-0, I think some of the biggest things that I try to focus on for junior high and high school kids is footwork. So every time I teach, if you're a right-handed shooter, that your left foot is always your pivot foot. If you're a left-handed shooter, your right foot 9 times out of 10 is going to be your pivot foot. And just putting a cone in front of you and using triple threat. And I just think kind of building it and leveling it and putting it on top of layering it and putting it on top. I just do like a jab step series where I go, if you're right-handed and your left foot's your pivot foot, just jabbing and coming to bring your right foot to the right and then to the left of the cone and stopping, coming back and doing 10 reps. The same thing. The second set is doing the same jab step. Once your right foot hits the ground, the left ball pounds at the same time. And then the last thing is the same jab step and then finishing into your right left without shooting, just right left and getting the ball to your shot pocket. So kind of layering it like that.
Just getting your footwork from
just getting your
threat
footwork
into your shooting.
Yes, if you me and my wife, we go to a bunch of high school games, and if you could just see how many times people catch the ball in triple threat in a half court situation and travel, it's remarkable. Like, so the biggest thing for me, especially with that age group, is just the footwork. If you're going left, it's right, left. If you're going right, your footwork should be left, right. I see a lot of kids that jump stop to shoot. And I just think that, once you get to the junior high and high school level, you're too old for that.
Man, I'm telling you, I have pros that, I had pros this year, we're talking about overseas fundamental, we're not talking about the most athletic players. Some of them literally, they'd have some leverage. They'd be closing out. They would, just rip and go, and then they would go into a jump stop. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, no.
Look, but at 32, it's really hard to
change those habits. Yep.
Like, these guys are so ingrained, and so for me, it's always about, I was a point guard, for me, it was like, how can I keep evolving my game? And I look at the guys like Trae Young. I look at Steph Curry, obviously is a special situation just because of his efficiency as a shooter. But, like Trae Young he's just, to me, he's just fascinating case study. He has such good kinetic energy when he shoots. It's not like, it's not like he's strong. I'm sure all these guys are strong, but, like there's a lot of kids that they just don't layer up that footwork. And then, their ability to handle the ball, create space off the dribble. Like some of the guys that you work with from a point guard scenario, like what are they working on that you're just like, this is next level? Like they keep, I guess what I'm trying to say is they keep evolving their footwork to different levels that I'd never seen as a player. And now I look like a step back was a big deal for me. And now you look and there's just like, man, what are these guys doing? It's amazing. You know, Dirk had the one step, you know, the one-legged jumper. And now you got these guys, wrong foot, wrong leg layups, floaters, you know, all sorts of shots. So how do you evolve the players into that level of like footwork and build that up, you know, when you get to that level?
Yeah. So one of the things that he's one of my best friends as well, Josh Gray, plays for the New Orleans Pelicans. He's on a two-way with the Pelicans and the Erie Bayhawks.
Where did he played at Houston?
No, he played at LSU.
LSU. Okay.
Yeah, LSU. And this is my fourth year working with Josh. And so it's just talking about layering, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the things that they do special with their footwork. So if I want to work on footwork, just say if I want to work on finishing, like I might do finishing out of a pick and roll situation, or I might do finishing out of a catch and rip situation, mm-hmm. like just doing different situations, but still focusing on footwork and finishing. Mm-hmm. So just kind of layering those two. But something that Josh does, like that's on a next level, it's like his, like kind of what you said, this is new next generation stuff, like his mm-hmm. right hand, right leg finish, like same hand, same leg. Mm-hmm. And the big thing for him is just like me and him go over ball placement. So it's probably tough to picture, but if you just mm-hmm. picture a backboard and drawing a line straight across like this, you just have a level 1 and level 2 is what I try to call it. Mm-hmm. And if you're doing, he's just so phenomenal at ball placement. And if you're doing an outside hand, right, outside foot, outside hand. So if mm-hmm. you're on the right side and you're shooting off your right foot and you're using your right hand, like I always try to tell him to finish on level 2. Mm-hmm. And he's so good, and especially at that level, G League and NBA, like where those guys are able to go and contest against the backboard, getting it that high off the glass.
Yeah, you got like a Taco Fall coming for it. You know,
yes,
like.
Exactly. And then if you're doing with your inside hand, then you need to be as close to level 1 as possible, right over the rim where you're trying to beat a defender. Yeah. So I just think some of those things, like how they're able to finish, I think, you know, it's just like next level. Like, man, in my mind, sometimes I sit back and I'm like, how do they do that? That's tough. Yeah. Like it's way on the top of the backboard and falls in. So stuff like that, like footwork and touch, it's just hard, but it's repetition. And then I think a lot of it has to do with gameplay and trying in a game, and mm-hmm. kind of like what me and you talked about, like using it so many times during your workout that you're confident enough to use it in a game. I see so many times I'll work on a left-hand layup with like maybe a junior high or elementary school kid, and then they get in the game, they still use their right hand. Yeah. You know, so because they're just not confident yet. And I think once they, when to continue to work hard and establish that confidence, I think the results will pay off for them.
Yeah. Do you do a lot of one-on-one training, or are you mostly doing 1-on-0? Like when do you start to do mini group, small workout groups where you're going live? Like talk about programming for a sec. I think a lot of parents have questions about programming, and I'm an advocate for more fundamental work, more training, less AAU. You can play twice a week, 3 times a week. You don't have to play 5-on-5 every day to be elite. And you don't have to, if you really study the game and really study how to program your training, like I would push players more to like a 2-to-1 practice to game ratio, 2 practices for every 1 game, or 3-to-1, or 4, even more. I think in Europe, we played 1 game a week. We're a 10-to-1. Europeans are a 10-to-1 practice to game ratio. And I think that's why you see such a huge gap. Like the shooters, a lot of them, they're not that athletic. I mean, they just read the game so well because, they're always working on fundamental breakdowns, read and react, spacing on a pick and roll. They all know how to read each other so well from that aspect because it's drilled into them. Luka Doncic, he can see the floor. Everything's happening. Those European guys, they just have a really good feel for reading the game at an early age.
Their IQs off the charts, absolutely.
So kind of like talk about programming in the American, view. What would you recommend for a elementary, middle school, high school, and as you go up?
So as far as whatever city they're in, I think at that age level, they should be trying to be in some sort of group, whether it's 4 or 5 maybe, and then also some individuals. So I think they should mix it up. Mm-hmm. So for what I do 1 group workout on Sundays. I have 1 on Wednesdays, and then I have individuals throughout the week. Mm-hmm. So some of those same guys that do the group workouts come to individuals, and then some guys, they maybe on the beginner level prefer individual. Some guys that like to compete prefer the group workout, but all throughout the group workout, I only allow probably between 8 kids in there. If it's just myself, if I have another helper, it's maybe 10 to 12. Mm. But I think the ratio, as far as parents, I think some of the things they need to be looking for is this trainer that you're going to, like how is their, coach to player ratio? If you have 30 kids in there and 1 coach, how much of value are they able to provide to your player? How many times are they able to put their hands on them and really instruct them? I think some of the things that I try to work on with, a small group of kids, 6 to 8 kids with myself and a helper, is just, 1-on-0, like you said. And then at the end, using those 1-on-1, 2-on-2 scenarios, not 5-on-5. Every camp I've ran, I've hardly ever run 5-on-5 just because that's not what I'm about. I'm some of the kids maybe get a little bored, but I just harp on fundamentals. And then at the end, just kind of competing against 1-on-1 or 2-on-2 scenarios. With my older guys, pro guys, like we start out with 3-on-3 before we play 5-on-5. I just think it's very important. I just think being able to use one side of the floor, making the proper read, especially with how big and long those guys are. Yeah. I think that's how you're able to teach the game. I think once you get them 5-on-5, especially at a camp or a group workout scenario, I just think that, it just everything you've taught, you can see it go out the window really quick if you're not careful. So I just think definitely layering it like that. But as far as AAU, man, I'm not a huge fan at all. I just think here and
makes
Houston,
two of us.
I have kids that, with their high school, they play maybe between 30 and 35 games in the regular season. And then they go in AAU and they play 85 to 100 games. And I just think it kind of lessens the importance of winning when you're playing that many games. I think, I don't know. I just don't think it's enough skill base. If that makes sense. I think it's just you're playing 5-6 games a weekend, and then you're doing one team practice during the week, but you're not really getting a bunch of individual skills. You're able to build on your individual performance. So I'm not a huge fan of it. I definitely think that unfortunately for high school players, it's definitely helpful, especially with their recruiting and especially for playing against better players. But I'm not a huge fan. I wish there was a better format for it, for sure.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, I won't keep you much longer. Just give us your, how do people find you? Will you send me a video of you working with some kids out, some training drills for kids? Cause that's who I usually work with. Like program, maybe a little bit, some tips from Aaron Miller. I'm going to call you Aaron Miller, the Great.
Okay. I appreciate it.
You're a very humble guy, which I always appreciate. I think a lot of kids, a lot of parents out there, got to stay humble and got to stay hungry. And I think that's really important. And I think that's why you've, just looking at your the way you do things, respect to you, you're very humble, hungry, and you built it the right way, which I really appreciate. And just tell us like how they can find you, how they can follow you, and keep learning and keep absorbing all the good stuff you're offering.
Yep. So my Instagram is Elite B-Ball Training. My Facebook is Aaron Miller, AARON, and I have my Facebook basketball page, which is Aaron Miller EBT. So I'm on my social media, and I'll put a bunch of stuff out this week, videos, things you can do at home, and I'll definitely send you a video as well that you can post for your guy.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, really thanks for putting your kids down and hanging out with us.
Oh, no problem at all.
And we'll stay in touch. Take care, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you.